All right, this is jpeg2RAW, show number 177 on June 21st, 2016. And tonight, just Tim and I. And this is our 5-year anniversary of doing Jpeg2RAW, the 5-year anniversary of the Jpeg2RAW show. Not necessarily Tim's 5th year, but close.
Yeah, I'm just short by a month.
We got some stuff for that later on. The first,
if we were still on Google Hangouts, we could have had the party hats and everything.
That's true. I did, so I don't want to go too much into that stuff just yet, because I know some people don't like reminiscing shows or look back shows or those kind of things. So what we're going to do for this show is the first half or so. I'm not going to make it exactly half, but the first part, we'll say, is going to be a regular show with Tim and I discussing a couple of topics. And then at some point, I'll say, all right, that ends that part of the show, and we'll head over into doing the reminiscing show. That way, if you don't like that kind of stuff, you can, when you hear me say that, you can just head on, you can just stop listening or whatever, because we don't want, if you don't like it, we don't want to make you listen to it or have to fast forward through it.
I think we force them.
You think we force them?
Force them to listen.
Well, we really appreciate it if you listen.
Yes.
If you haven't listened since show number 1, you are going to hear a few things that you've never heard before in the second half of the show. But all right, we'll get started here in the first half. And I have just a few things to go over. We had some great comments coming up just within the last couple of hours in our Facebook group. And I love when we have new people come in who are new to photography, and they're at that point where everything seems so confusing. What is aperture? What is shutter speed? What is ISO? How do they all work? I see this little thing at the bottom of my viewfinder that's got a -2 all the way over to a +2. So if I'm at, F7 and I go to F9, is that 2 times as much light? All these questions that they're asking. And, some of us have been there before. Some of us naturally knew this stuff already. But, if you think back to whenever that was you, and you were confused by all these different things and how they interact and what they do, that can be a confusing time for somebody. So we'll go over that in just a second. But before we do, I wanted to mention our photo contest in the Facebook group. Tim, I know you saw part of the show at least, but we had A.D. Wheeler, mainly him. I just was there to host. A.D. went through all the photos that were submitted and gave a review of them. And from a standpoint of saying, here's what you could have done to make this photo better. So in my view, that is extremely valuable. You got a guy who's pro, who's really good at his craft and who knows what he's talking about, and is, and for a lot of other people, you got to pay him to get this kind of advice. He was given free to everybody who had entered. I think there were 17 or 15 of them, whatever, that had entered. So if you want to get some great feedback from a pro like that, we're going to try and do this every month on every photo that was entered. And that's, we start getting a lot of photos that are entered, but every photo is entered. So if you want to put a photo in that you took that month, entered into a photo contest, you can do it on our website, or you can do it on our Facebook group, which is probably the easiest. Just go to the Facebook group, Jpeg2RAW, and it's right there. You can enter it, and then he will give a critique. He did ask that what makes it easier for him to give a review that makes sense is if you had a special thing you were trying to achieve with the image. You were trying to have this mood with the image, or you edited it in a certain way to achieve this result. If he knew those things, what you were trying to achieve with the image, why the image is special to you, why you took this shot versus some other shot, why you included something or didn't include something, the more detail you can give without writing a novel, that would help him with the review. That would be even more beneficial to you. If you just took it because I thought that bird looked cool and I took the shot, then he can give a review of that too, but it may not have as much meaning. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yes, that did. I think that was part of what I was watching with him as well that day.
Yeah. When I heard him talk about it, it really helped me out to say, okay, I understand where you're coming from and why you can give a generic view. Well, let's say, for instance, the rose from that Gina took. I don't think I gave it to him, so that would be my fault. But that was a rare orange rose in her garden. And that's why she took a picture of that flower.
Right. It might look ordinary unless you know that it's a rare photo. And then they explain that. And then the context of it means a lot different also.
It does, because we were talking, he was talking about if maybe you could have picked a different flower to achieve this or that, some of the angles he was talking about. Well, if he had known that she took that particular flower because it was a rare orange one in her garden, then, you know, suggesting to go to a different flower to get a different angle wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
So that's the kind of stuff he's talking about. We got Stephen Miller out there now, too. Thank you, Stephen, for coming today. Hey, the other thing I want to talk about, Tim, I don't know if you saw this, but Android, I'm an Android user. Android is probably going to beat Apple with the dual cameras on the phone. I think the next Note, which is I got the 5, I think.
Note 6, right?
Yeah, not sure. Note 6 may already be out, so maybe the Note 7, whichever the next Note is, and the Galaxy 8 may come with the first dual. Well, I don't know if it's the first one of like Samsung or iPhone, dual cameras.
For what reason? One telephoto and one wide angle?
Exactly. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense because that's probably the biggest complaint you get out of the cameras is that it's the focal length of it is a fixed length.
Yeah.
It's not variable at all. Actually, I kind of like that idea.
And, you know, my phone's a little thick because I got the case on it. But you think about, you know, your lens to have that zoom. If you want to zoom in and out, an optical zoom, not a digital zoom. You just don't have enough depth to the camera to the phone to do that. So what I was looking at when I was reading this, because when I first heard dual cameras, it's like, what are you going to do with dual cameras? Is it trying to get some kind of
stereo? That's 3D what I'm thinking, like 3D stereo.
But it's like you said, it's for zoom. Well, I think the optical zoom on one could be up to 5x. So they use them in combination to create the zoom or the wide angle, whichever one you want there. And it's supposed to add additional dynamic range because you can use them in unison. And
so they'll be working together at the same time?
Yes.
Oh, now that's interesting.
To add the zoom or to add dynamic range or to add sharpness. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see the real world use of that and how good it's going to be. The rumors are Apple decided not to do it in the next iPhone because they say the technology is not there yet. So Samsung may be willing to put something in that doesn't meet Apple standards and just to be first.
Well, I won't be lucky because I use a Nexus now. I switched over to Nexus, and my next phone will probably be another Nexus when the next one gets announced. And their cameras suck. That's probably that's the one bad thing about that phone.
Yeah, well, you know, with our phones now, this completely replaced the point and shoot.
Yes, I don't know if the last time I saw a point and shoot.
Yeah, I mean, like this phone here is a 16 megapixel. I mean, it's so big, I have it go to Dropbox as soon as it takes it. I can't tweet the photo from my computer because it's too big. I got to drop the size down. Now, yeah, it's not. I wouldn't compare the 16 megapixel to my 12 megapixel DSLR. I mean, it's not the same quality.
The sensor is the size of your pinky nail.
But you know, the advancements seem to be coming in faster with all the software and all the things it can do. I mean, like on this thing, I can hold it up like let's say I'm taking something and you got it, you know, steady, and when you press the shutter button, it kind of shakes a little bit. Well, with this, you can just hold it and say, shoot. You can just say shoot, and the thing will take a picture. Or you can say record video. Boom, it'll take a video. It'll record video. So, you know, just as vocal commands, where our DSLRs are a little stagnant.
Right. And Ron wrote Apple is stalling, finally getting around to RAW on the phone, and that's something good finally that they're doing. But I know you're not an Apple fan, even though you now own a piece.
I do.
I don't. I have an Apple phone for work. I don't like the iPhone compared to my Nexus. I like the Android operating system much better. The one thing I will say about Apple, I have their MacBook, and I just got a MacBook Air. The quality of their laptops is bar none better than most, if not all, of the PC laptops I've ever used.
Well, as much as I am not a fan of Apple, I'm not a fan of the Dells or any of those guys either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of those. And, you know, I know a lot of our listeners here are Apple users, and I like the fact that we have competition.
Yes, competition is good.
Yeah, I don't want Microsoft to blow them out of the water. I don't want Apple to blow Microsoft out of the water. I want choice for all of us.
Well, and I look back on, you think the two chips, was it Intel and AMD?
Mm-hmm.
AMD kind of fell off the planet, more or less. And now Intel isn't really pushing the chips nearly as much as they did 5, 6, 7 years ago. So,
yeah, no, that's a good point.
Granted, I don't know if I get the use out of my chips, and probably mainstream user, it'll never use the processors that they get out of their chip. So it's...
The funny thing is, other than the one that I'm on right now, the one I'm talking to you on is different, but the one that I produce a show on, it's the only Intel-based computer in the entire house. Everybody else is AMD.
Really?
Yeah, I've never built an Intel machine until this one, and it wasn't that much better, if better at all. But you're right. The piece, the what do you call it? The CPU is kind of topped out.
Yeah, I think it has.
And for the average user, yeah, maybe they don't. For my mom and my wife, it's fine. The CPU is fine.
Yeah, surfing the web, reading email, you don't need an i7 or whatever.
Yeah, if you're doing a lot of Photoshop work, if you're doing a lot of Lightroom work, if you're doing video work, if you're doing that kind of stuff, the GPU assistance is still very, very small. Like Ron was talking before the show about Liquify. There's a new Liquify, something changed with Liquify in the version of Photoshop that just came out today, I believe. Yeah. That Liquify has, for a while now, had assistance from the GPU, and it can make a huge difference. And Lightroom has very little assistance from the GPU. It has some. And Adobe Premiere, the video editor from Adobe, has very, 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 very little that it can use. But when you use it, it does help.
Premiere doesn't use the video card?
Yeah, unfortunately, it uses it for very, very, very few things.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I knew Lightshop didn't use it. And my PC, I haven't put in a video card in a while. Lightshop? Did I say Lightshop? Well, talking about merging them. I use Lightroom all the time, and I didn't even bother putting in a video card in my computer because there was no need for it. And maybe when I redo this one, I'll probably, because now that it works with it, I'll probably put one in the next time. But I don't even know when I'm going to rebuild a computer again. I mean, the next time I buy it, I'll have to actually pay for Windows, which is not going to make me happy.
Yeah. I think in Premiere, when you're exporting, and there's a few things when you're editing, but when you're exporting, if you have some effects, like sharpening, and there's a few others, there's a list of them. If you have some effects, that is assisted by the GPU. But if you're not doing effects, if you're like me, and you're just, you're making fun of you now, Tim.
Yes.
Or Tom.
That was Tom that said it, not Tim.
Yeah, that was Tom that said it. If you're just doing a straight output like what you do, add in a little bit of music and I add in, I do some cutting and that kind of stuff. If you're just doing that, it's all CPU. So rendering is still really slow.
Well, I will say in Lightroom, when I import my pictures and I convert everything to a DNG, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
and that's got to be my CPU. But I mean, my system's pretty high power. I mean, I don't know what's in there anymore, but I'm surprised at how slow it is, and I actually have to get up and walk away if I'm going to import like 200-300 pictures, and then they all can convert it, and then it goes into the facial recognition. That takes time, and the process is just painful sometimes.
All right, so I'm sure people love me talking about tech, but I love tech, so I put it in there every once in a while. All right, so we had out in our Facebook group. This was back in early June. One of our members said, "Oh, help! I've lost some. I accidentally deleted some photos off her memory card. So the memory card wasn't bad. It's just she accidentally deleted some of them off the card. So the first thing we told her was, do not format the card. Do not write anything else to it. My camera still uses a compact flash. I don't know what yours uses. Some of them use
SD card.
Yeah, SD cards are smaller than this. The first thing you do if you've accidentally deleted something, or even if you accidentally format it, don't do anything else. Don't write anything to it. Don't format it again. Don't do anything like that. She ended up using, and I have a post in our forums. Let's see if I can show this. I'm going to go over to our forums here, Tim, because I know how much you love it. And I think it's in, is it in tips? Not a whole lot here, so don't get all excited when you see it. Yeah, corrupt card. So I've started a list. I've only got 3 here that, potential items things you can use to rescue your photos. She ended up using, and I have to add this to the post after the show. She ended up using a program called Rescue Pro by SanDisk.
I used that previously.
Yeah, and that's not one of the ones. No, I have that. Yeah, already had that there. Rescue Pro by SanDisk. It's about $40. I think that's what she paid, $40. And it's.
But I think there are times where that comes for free with the card.
It may, if you get it for free, if there's no limitations. Some of these programs have limitations on the number of photos you can recover, or they may even charge you by the number of photos you want to recover. With this, it's either free, like you said, with the card, or a flat $40 for, you can use it as often as you want. Hopefully you don't have to use it that often.
Yeah, I only had to use it once, and you know what? Once is the only time you ever have to need it.
Yeah. Well, you never know when you accidentally going to do something, because all your backup plans, all your everything you do, if you accidentally delete it, you just circumvented everything. So there's not much you can do there. But this, if you have a corrupt card, if you accidentally deleted something, accidentally formatted something, try something like this. If you go out to our forums, I put the little thing up there, jpeg2RAW.com/forums, you can find a post in the tips section. And I won't have to add another one because I already had that one there, of different things you can try, different programs you can try that may help you recover those photos. She was able to recover them. So the good news story there.
Now, what card do you use? Use all SanDisk now?
What card does she use?
No, you.
Oh,
because on my compact flash, I used Lexar. Since I've gone over to the SD cards on the Sony, I switched over everything to SanDisk, and I've been very pleased with them. I mean, I was pleased with Lexar. I had no problem with either or.
This is an old one. Mm-hmm. It's only a 4 gig, so I don't. I think I was shooting with this one, and I don't know what I was doing with this one, but I don't usually shoot with this one anymore. But I do use the SanDisk cards. I've used Lexar before too; those are fine.
Yeah, those are the 2 brands that I've used.
Yep. All right, then we had
Ron is saying that the DNG conversion is much better since the new update from Light Shop.
Light Shop.
Oh,
what just happened there?
I lost you and you lost me.
That's really odd.
That's what happens after 5 years. Well, I see you on the Facebook page still.
You do?
Yeah, the Facebook page has you live and has a small square of me.
Yeah. I don't have your video. Can you start and stop it again?
Yep.
That was really weird.
Actually, my video had stopped on its own. That's weird.
Huh.
But now you should have me now.
I do. I have you back now. Yeah.
Okay.
There
we are.
Skype seems to be having some issues. Oh, wait. So we got some comments out in Facebook, too. Light Shop. Willie Ford says, Light Shop, you're making fun of you, Tim. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's all right.
And Lisa Speckman, who's our guest next week, is out there. Sorry, Lisa and Willie, I missed you guys earlier. Hopefully the video's still going. Is your video still going?
Yeah, I'm looking live on all screens.
Okay. All right. So the last thing I had was I posted by a new member out in our Facebook group, Becky Thompson. And this is a long post, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but I sometimes struggle with how to explain it in a way that won't be more complicated. But I'll read you her question, and then you can add to it, or maybe we can't solve it here, but this is a question that a lot of beginners have. Do f-stops have a corresponding shutter speed? For example, f27. First off, I can't imagine a scenario where you need to really be shooting at f27.
Yes.
For example,
you're taking a picture of the sun.
Yeah, I don't even know if I have a lens that does that. But anyway, for example, f27. Does it always have the same shutter speed, or is it adjustable? Yeah, that's basically it. So what I think she's first now just starting to learn about the exposure triangle, and is confused about, hey, if I'm shooting at, instead of saying 27, we're going to say 2.8. If I'm shooting at f2.8, will my shutter speed always be this? And the answer is no, it won't. It depends on the amount of light. You increase your light, and your shutter speed will go up, assuming the other things stay equal. Three things. Well, let me put my fingers up. Three things: shutter speed, aperture, which is f-stop, and ISO. So let's say ISO and f-stop remain the same. If you have increased your light, your shutter speed will need to go up to create the same exposure. If you decrease your light, then the shutter speed would need to come down to keep the same exposure. This is where things get a little bit more confusing. Is in shutter speed is fairly easy. You go from 1/100th to 1/200th, so double 100 to 200, and you've cut the amount of light in half because the thing is opened half as much time as it was before. The shutter was open half as much. You go from 200 to 400, you've cut it in half again, and so on and so on. Or if you go the other way, you double the light. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yes.
And you're not getting my, you weren't getting my video, were you?
I am. Oh, you notice on the bottom I wasn't, because I keep on the top what you're publishing, so I don't even look at you on the other one.
Okay. Hopefully we're still all good here, everybody says. Okay. Then, but on the f-stop, this is where it gets a little confusing. She thought if I went from f7 to f9, I have changed my light by 2 times or whatever it was. It's not quite as simple. I put a link out there, and there's a great simulator. Let's see if I can get this pulled up. A great simulator out there that I like for a beginner. You know, for somebody like Ron or Jimmy or Willie or who else was out there? Or Steven or Lisa. You know, this is not going to be a sim that's going to be much helpful to you. But for a beginner, this sim, which is over at camerasim.com, that's camera, S-I-M.com.
Oh my God, we did this
long time ago.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yes. Long time ago. This is going to be the transition into the second half. So this simulator is awesome. Somebody just typed something. This simulator is awesome in that down at the bottom, you've got your shutter speed.
Yep.
Your f-stop, the little guide, I'll come back to that, and your ISO. So the 3 things that make up the exposure triangle. And we're going to go to manual mode. And if I change the shutter speed, you watch the little guide at the bottom and it moves up and down. So I think for a beginner, this is a great place to go and kind of play around, put it in manual mode, and play around with these little dials and watch how it impacts the other things in your in the simulation. If I go all the way up to F20, this 22, this won't go up to your 27. It says I'm -2 on the exposure. I'm way more than that. That's as far as this thing went, though.
Right, that's exactly it. It's pegged to the bottom.
Yeah, I got to bring the ISO all the way up to 1600 to get back to the middle. So you're trying to get that exposure line right in the middle. So I would recommend to let's go back over to the Facebook page, to Becky Thompson. Go give that a try. Play around with that, and then ask your questions in the group, and we'll keep trying to help you and bring you along, because this first times when you're first getting into it, it does get very confusing how these numbers work. At first, one of the things that really confused me, Tim, was the fact that while the ISO and the shutter speed makes sense, 200 to 400 is
right.
2 times. 2.8 to 4, that's not 2 times.
No, that's backwards. Right, it's half.
Yeah, it's not even half. 2.8 times 2 does not equal 4.
Right.
And 4 times 2 equals 8, not 5.6.
Right.
And so on. Who did this math? So I understand that it's not a simple math for a beginner, but looking at some of these, lots of If you go out and type in exposure triangle and on Google, and then search for images, it'll show. There's lots of graphics that'll show you how to do those. Okay. So with that, we're going to end the first part of the show, and we're going to head into part 2 of the show, which now is where we're going to do this celebration type stuff and do some reminiscing. Maybe before we do that, I'll just remind you, if you want to get the show next week, we have Lisa Speckman coming on. Hopefully, I'm saying your name right, Lisa. We have Lisa coming on. If you want to get the show and subscribe to it, make sure you get it as soon as it comes out. We're on, for video, we're on, where's my list? Crap, I should have had that ready. For video, we're on iTunes, YouTube, and Vimeo. For audio, we're on Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podomatic, Podbean, and Google Play Music. And we're getting more and more every day. We have new, okay, stupid phone. Every day we have more people who are downloading the jpeg2RAW app. It comes up. First thing is going to be the video feed, which is from YouTube. And I've got it on an Android here, so it's on the Google Play Store, but it's also on in iTunes and all that. But you can also you click the little thing and you can't see it, but you got choices on. You can listen to the audio too. Where am I at? There we go. Listen to the audio if you don't want to listen to the video, and other little things that we're doing, like what's in your bag. Got those there, the videos there. I'm keep trying to get it right. What's in your bag? And there's only one of them out there right now. The new photo review that AD Wheeler and I did, it's out there. So any ones we do will be added there. So I keep adding content. We'll keep adding more and more content out there for you. So the jpeg2RAW app is a great place to get it. And I want you guys to download it because they just doubled the freaking price on me. So I want to make it worthwhile that for me paying this money to go out there and download it. Because if we have more than this, but if at one point we only get like 50 people having downloaded this, I'm probably going to stop doing it. It's free, by the way. It's free for you to download, not for me. But I want to get some use out of it. And speaking of that, the way the show makes money for not for this, but for giveaways, is using our Amazon affiliate link. I'm not even going to talk about the Topaz Lab one anymore. Nobody does that. But jpeg2RAW.com/Amazon. If you go to our website, there's a link there. You can go and click on that before you go to Amazon and buy something. Like I just bought, I went and got it, but I got a Rectech grill. This is not the grill. This is just a thing.
Yeah, it's a very small grill.
Yeah. But if you're going to buy a grill on Amazon, first go and use our Amazon affiliate link. I don't use the money to pay for our app. I use it only for giveaways and the year-end contests and those kind of things. So it all comes back to our listeners and viewers. So go out there and use our link if you're going to buy anything on Amazon. We really appreciate it. All right. So that will end that. We're going to go into the second half of the show.
Woohoo! Oh, it's dreamy sequence.
Yeah. I had a little thing set up so we can go to the second half of the show. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of build up here. Rachel Brinke is out there. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Rachel. So I don't have a clip with Rachel in it, but I will say that Rachel still holds the record for the most live viewers at a time. And I think it was slightly over 250, maybe like 251, 252. Rachel, you still hold the record for the most live viewers, and I don't think we'll ever beat that again. So congratulations, Rachel. And she may have the record for the most appearances on the show, other than you, Tim, who's a co-host.
Yeah, I think I have most people on that.
Yeah. So outside of the host and co-host, Rachel has the record. It's 5 or 6 times. She has the record, and we really appreciate Rachel coming on, doing so much to help us build the show over the 5 years. We really appreciate it. So now let me go to a couple of things I got to queue up here. All right, this is jpeg2RAW, show number 177 again. doing a 5-year look, doing a look back of jpeg2RAW as we celebrate our 5-year anniversary. We had some issues before with my upload speed basically died, and it's hard to do a podcast with no upload speed, right, Tim?
Yeah, it didn't work.
And if I remember right, we're going to have to start back over with that stuff. But if I remember right, we were at a point where
Talking about Kathleen.
Kathleen had said something critical, and boom, we lost the
Right.
upload. So, but I'm going to go.
Something about shooting
Yeah,
in JPEG.
Yep. We're going to go back through that. We're going to do a little bit of reminiscing here. And what I want to do first, Tim, is basically just going to start over with that part of the show. So if you were here last night, you're hearing some of this stuff again. If not, it's all new. If you didn't listen to that. But Tim, you started with me in show number 4, I believe, right?
4.
Yep.
Right.
4. The first 3 shows we had no video recorded. I am recording, yes. No video recorded, but we
Otherwise,
did.
we'd be doing 177.5.2.
Yeah, 100 and 5 years later, 177 shows. There can still be technical difficulties.
Yes.
There's things beyond our control and within our control that we still mess up.
Well, you know what? Speaking of that, Leo Laporte, you've seen him. He had some major issues 2 weeks ago with his show. They cut through the fiber optic line outside in Petaluma, and I think it was 162 strands. It took him like 28 hours. So his entire show had no calls.
Yeah.
For the whole weekend. So yeah, technical things do happen.
Doing a live show, there's things that are beyond your control, and you're working with technology that can fail. So we had to deal with some of that. And back in the early days, like with show number 1, I didn't have the technical expertise, and some of the software we use today didn't exist to do a video streaming podcast, and definitely didn't know how to edit the audio the way I do now. I'm still not a pro, but much better. And so the first show we did had 2 ladies from my office, Kristen and Jenny, who still work with me. They're still working in the office. Matter of fact, I was cheering them on today as they were doing a cornhole competition. If you ever heard of that cornhole competition, when you toss a beanbag. But they definitely are not into podcasting, but I convinced them to come on the show. And Kristen was dressed in camo gear and was carrying her husband's some gun he had. He's ex-military. And so she came on the show where I can see her like that, dressed in camo and camouflage and everything else. Jenny came on to Skype wearing what looked like a Garth from Wayne's World type outfit and an Xbox headset. I didn't know it was Xbox headset at first, but an Xbox headset that looked like it was plugged into something, but really wasn't plugged into anything. Jenny had a case where every time she talked, it sounded like somebody had a tea kettle going on in the background. And Kristen, if she didn't mute when we talked, it all fed back through her audio. So it was just a jumbled mess. Plus, they were a little giddy. And later they found out that Jim Collison, who got me into podcasting, who does the Average Guy podcast, was out there in chat, which Jenny thought was Chad and some dude out there, but later found out it was chat. Jim Collison was out there, and that Jim was the inventor of a term called clock blocking. And that is where you're running some race and people get in your way and mess up your timing. He had no idea, and at the time I had no idea that meant something else, just slightly different.
Well, the close word meant something different else, yes.
The close word meant something else. I had never heard that term until now. It seemed like I hear it everywhere, but I didn't know that term before. And they were enamored with the fact that he was out there and had to talk to him. So what you're about to hear, as I try and set this up, is some outtakes from the show. It's not that long. It's about a minute and a half. Outtakes from the show and some of the after show discussion there. So let me get this set up. I'm going to mute us, Tim, and we'll
Perfect. So I can listen to it then.
Well, we hope. All right, just a second, everybody. And I found out that Kristen's not only in full camo gear, but she's got face paint on and a large weapon. Shoot if you hate. Hey, Jim is out there in chat. Jim Collison, you can't see, but Jenny and Kristen are holding up signs that say "Clock Blocker for Life."
You can't say that.
I said clock.
She's really paranoid about her laugh too, so she was thinking about laughing like this.
Yeah, we had two challenges. I think Jenny's has the teapot sound, and Kristen has the feedback sound. So I think
I did have this headset on the whole time,
which is not plugged into anything.
Are you actually? So, are you on the mic? That's what I can't figure out.
No,
you're coming through the mic.
Headset, and I thought for sure it was going to be helpful, but I couldn't figure out how to connect it to my computer. Not because I'm not smart, but because I don't think it's made for my computer. So I just kept it on the whole time, anyways.
Nice. I'm gonna wear these shoulder pads while I podcast. They're not doing anything.
You never know.
You had a microphone clock block.
Okay, we're back. So Tim,
Yes.
Let's see, we're back. Our audio's back. Were you not able to hear it through your headset?
No, it actually winds up playing over my speakers of my computer. So I wind up muting it so that my microphone here, so you don't hear me. But since you're muting us anyway, I played it. So
okay, so you can hear it as it's going on. Okay,
yes.
that was
about 10 seconds behind.
That was Jenny and Kristen. So you're not having to listen to it in the actual show feed.
Correct. No, I'm hearing it. Well, I'm hearing it on the Facebook feed.
Oh, well, that's not what I was hoping you could hear it like I'm talking to you.
No, I don't hear it that way at all.
Well. Okay, this still isn't working then. Huh.
Different type of technical difficulty today.
Well, maybe what I just did there will fix it.
Okay.
We will see. We'll see when we try the next one. So that was Jenny and Kristen from show number 1. You could hear a little bit of their. Are you okay, Tim?
I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't tell if I was messing with the audio, so I don't want to. Hope I'm not messing everything up. That was Jenny and Kristen from show number 1. You could hear Kristen. Jenny, when she talked a little bit, if you paid close attention, you could hear that tea kettle sound, that like a whistle or something.
I heard a little bit. And was the dinging? Was that different clips?
That was me saying ding. Here's another clip.
New clip.
Ding. Here's
Okay.
another clip. What you also heard, there was Jim Collison who came on, who was confused by the whole headset thing.
Right. Jim's like, huh?
So that was show number 1. Yeah, that was some good topics, but an awful technical show. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one, and this one, I got a graphic. I think we didn't actually have video of us, but we had a graphic. So let me see if I can't. I'm going to switch it over to us, but then I'm going to pause. So I'm going to pause it for a second as I come over, but because I got to set up the audio. So let's see here. I guess that's where we're at. Hold on. Let's
see if I could hear it this time.
Yeah, I got to cut our. I guess that's where we're at right now. Let's go ahead and head into the show. This is show number 7, and this is your third time on, Tim?
Correct.
At some point, I'm going to trick you into being co-host. Tim's going to be saying, "What? Why am I on every week?" All right, that was me joking and show number. What did I say? 4, 5? No, 7.
7.
Show number 7.
Third time on the show.
Third time on the show. I was joking to you about, hey, you're going to come on the show one day and wonder how'd you become tricked into being co-host, because you were so willing to come back all the time.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no, it works out great.
Yeah, and I loved having you on the show with me. We interacted well, and it's so much easier having someone to share it with you. You know.
And I'm just looking because I have the original email.
Thanks, Mark.
What was the date of show number 7?
Yeah, I knew you would ask me questions like that. I don't know.
I think we have our first guest from Facebook. Okay, well, it didn't work out for the weekend. She had to cancel. So I'm trying to find if I have the original email from you. Like, oh, come on again, because I remember you said, just come on into another show.
I'm looking through the Facebook page, not the Facebook, the website, because she could be able to go on the website and type in number 7. It looks like it was around September 20th, 2011.
Oh, so is that late? Okay.
Yeah. That's when I posted the post. So if I was not too far off on the post, then, sometime in that September of 2011 range.
Here's one, September 20th. Thanks for coming on the show. You did a great job and real pleasure talking to you. Can't wait to have you on again.
When was that?
September 28th. But actually, no, you might have actually sent that to somebody else and copied me in. Ashley Nicole.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Ashley was a great guest. We've had some great guests on the show over the 5 years.
Yes, we did.
If I start naming them, there's going to be people I forget.
You're gonna mess somebody up or forget. Actually, you probably just mispronounce the name. So
I definitely would do that. Yes, but I should mention a few that. Let me mention a few that are highlights to me, and maybe you can mention a few that highlights you. Maybe there's some of the same. We can't say celebrate 5 years without thanking Rachel Brinke, who has probably 2 records with us. One, the most live viewers that we've ever had, which was somewhere in the low 250s, 251, 252, somewhere in that range. So she holds that record. Sarah Cornish.
she was on a couple shows.
I think I said the name right.
Sarah Cornish.
Yeah.
Sarah.
She came close to breaking that record, but she didn't. So Rachel had it. But Rachel has the other record of, I think, the most times on the show. 5 or 6, something like that. She was on the show quite often. So can't say thank you without saying thank you to Rachel. I liked having Seth Castile, the guy who was on, he does Underwater Dogs. He was on,
yes, I forgot all about that.
He was awesome. He also was on, what's that, Duck Dynasty. He was on the show Duck Dynasty one time.
That's right.
So he was great. Don Com
plenty of times, and I always enjoyed him.
Yep.
I think he does a great job.
He just had a baby in the last week or so.
I don't think I saw that. Okay, congratulations.
Just had a baby.
I'm looking at the book over here, Victoria Bridgehampton.
Yep.
That was good. Who was the guy that did does the abandoned scapes?
Oh, that's A.D. Wheeler.
Oh, that was 80. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was 80. I loved those pictures.
And of course, 2 people I see out in chat right now, Stephen and Ron. Both of them have been on the show before. We thank them, and they're out there now. I had the guy right when I came back from my cancer surgery. The first show after that was our very first boudoir show, and I know I got some flack from some other people about doing a boudoir show. That hey, you're just doing boudoir for sensationalism and that kind of stuff. Well, when we didn't show nudity, we just showed classy, what I think is classy boudoir.
Yes.
And it was like show number 87, so it's not like we were doing these all the time just for publicity. But that was Damien Lovegrove from England.
And from England. Yeah. And that was late at night for him.
I think it was almost 3 a.m. when we finished with him. Yeah.
And we looked more tired than he did.
Yeah. Yeah, we did, yes. So he was really awesome. And that show has done fantastic on YouTube. I think it has close to 300,000 views now, which is just crazy. So that's just a few. Maybe as we go through a couple of more of these, we'll remember some other people that we can bring up because there's so many. I want to do, and I've started this in our forums, which I know everybody loves to go to. Our forums is doing a post on each guest and showing every time they've been on and links back to everybody. So you can go there and just scroll through some posts and see where everybody's been on and link back to their stuff. So let's go to the very next show. We talked about show number 7. Now we're going to do show number 8.
8.
Which is where it all happens. All right, again, I'm going to have to do that thing where I bring it over and stop it and then fix the audio, and then you can hear it. So hold on. This is so that. This is jpeg2RAW podcast, show number 8. And tonight I am joined by Tim Kimperly again, but tonight he's coming on in a new way. He's the co-host. So welcome, Tim, for your first night as co-host.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for accepting the co-host position. So, all right, so that was the very next show where you accepted the co-host, where I previously had said, I'm going to trick you into being co-host.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to tempt fate and go to the clip
Kathleen.
the clip that killed the show last night. It didn't cause it, but it's right after we played this clip, it caused it. This was, I think, Kathleen, who was co-host with us for
40 to 50
40
shows.
to 50 shows. This was her first time on a show, I believe. It was like show number, I wrote this down. Let's see. Maybe I didn't write it down. Okay, I didn't write it down. No, there it is. Show number 15. I think this is her first time on the show. So let me get this set up. So this is a question I had for you later. Are you shooting RAW or JPEG?
Ooh, dun dun dun. Well, any photographer worth her salt should be shooting in RAW, right?
It doesn't have to be, but that's,
I shoot JPEG.
Wow. That's all I
Did
can
it
say
freeze
there.
again?
No, that was the end of it.
But now, you know what? She went full bore into Lightroom. I wonder if she switched since then to RAW.
That's a good question. Now, guys out in chat, if I want to make sure y'all were able to hear that I did that right. Hopefully I did. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
This is what happened last night.
Oh my God! No, you are kidding me.
Try and turn your video on and off again.
It's the same thing that happened to me yesterday. My video went off on its own.
Yeah, I'm not dropping packets, so hopefully we're good. Dun dun dun. Yeah, here you. So Ron
I had to give a little Kathleen there.
Ron Hurst. So that was this is scary. We played that clip for a second time. That is Kathleen
You
on the
pushing
jpeg2RAW show, admitting that she shoots JPEG. God, we shouldn't tempt faith. We need to move on from that one.
Yeah, really.
Get to the next one before something else happens. So this next one is, there's people I reach out to come on a show who it takes a while, a lot of work to get them on a show. I send them an email, there's no response,
Right.
no response. Weeks later, they finally respond, or I've sent them another, email. They respond, and it may be a question, or it may be something else. And it sometimes can. We had one guest who it took multiple years to finally get her on the show. Mm-hmm. That's an extreme, but sometimes it can take weeks and weeks and weeks to work out all the details and get somebody on the show. This guy, I reached out to him, and like within 15 minutes or less, and he's extremely popular, 15 minutes or less, he emailed me back, said, love to come on the show. And within an hour, we had date worked out and everything. Then it turned out that the night he was coming on the show, he was at a relative's house or a friend's house, and it was a little chaotic for him. And he didn't tell us this, but I'm sure he was thinking, why'd I agree to do it on this night while I'm here? Anyway, we had him on the show, and Kathleen and I, you weren't there, Tim. Kathleen and I wanted to do something to honor him. So when you see what we're wearing, it is not to make fun of him. It is in honor of him. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is only like a 20-second clip. It's pretty short, but you'll see us in a way you've never seen us before. Ready?
Is a starting point. And that's an easy way to shoot manual. It's like you're using what you have there in auto to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, totally. And you can see what the camera is telling you to do. you need to know that you are more intelligent than the camera, and so you need to take what the camera told you and see how you can improve upon it.
So yeah, that was Kathleen and I wearing wigs in honor of Jared Pollen from Fro Knows Photo. And I think it looked like Kathleen even had crazy makeup on her lips.
Yeah,
or
she
something.
did. she reminds me of Sandy from Grease in that.
Yeah. So
all dressed up.
so that was a little bit of us going wild as we've gone on here, except for when we made all the different hats and everything that we wore. All right, one more for Kathleen, and this one you were there, Tim.
Okay. Oh yes.
You know what this one is.
I sure do.
All right, let me get this one set up.
To the person's face versus all of the surroundings.
You know, one of the things I do, I don't know if you guys do this. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. I have muted myself.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I do is I have a little button on my camera on the front of it that you can program.
Hold on.
Had a little issue there. I'm not sure if she wants me to share this, but I'm going to share it anyway. If you saw the last few seconds before Kathleen left, she looked like she was definitely afraid of something. Did y'all see that?
No, I missed it.
Well, you know, it looked like she was definitely afraid of something. So I thought it could have been one of two things: a little bug, which I hate bugs too. If a spider crawled across here, you'd see me fly backwards, or one of the kids came running through naked. It was neither one of those. It was a mouse.
Ah!
So I think she's dealing with a mouse right now, so she may not be back. So it's up to us guys to finish up.
And here is a screenshot of the as much as we had, the moment whenever she realizes a mouse is running across the table or the floor or whatever else happened right in the middle of the show. And for a while, Tim, we didn't know what had happened. All of a sudden,
No, we thought something bad had happened.
Yeah.
She just disappeared.
Yeah, she just disappeared. Eventually, what she did is like cut off her camera, and then I think she jumped up on the table. Let me bring us back.
Yeah,
up.
I think that's what she said.
She jumped up on the table, and then she dropped out of Skype. So her and I, talked on the phone before. So I texted her and said, "You all right? Do I need to call the police? What's happening?" And it took her a little bit, but then she finally texted back that she had a mouse there, and then a dog had run in, and a dog was after it or something like that. And so and her husband was not there, and so she had the kids, and eventually she got it worked out. But it was a little chaos there for her at that time. Kathleen always made it fun.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. And she did a lot of talking during the shows.
She did, and she definitely did a lot of talking.
Yeah, she ran the interviews.
The other thing that you might have noticed in some of those clips where we had video is there was sometimes lip sync problems. That one had some lip sync problems. The audio video was not synced very well, and the video quality was not very good at all. Did you notice that, Tim?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have come a long way.
Yeah.
In that area of it, we still make mistakes. Hope, cross my fingers that everything holds together. We still make mistakes, but hopefully we're getting better all the time. And we really appreciate all the thousands and thousands of listens and views and whatever else has been out there. The group, our community over on Facebook is now, we're getting close to 1,800 or something like that. I don't know, 1,740 or something. And some active members out there that are willing to help everybody. I really like our Facebook group. We really created a good community over there, Tim.
I wouldn't know. I'm never there. I mean,
you are some. Somebody had a question about a Minolta camera.
Yes, somebody, and then I didn't get a follow up on it.
And that drew you out.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I own the camera for a year, and I was like, oh my God, the 7D. Actually, I might even, if I probably look in my closet, I probably, I don't know if that's the one I sold or. I sold something. I don't know if it was my Minolta 7D, but I think that was probably my first digital camera.
Yeah, I remember you talked about the Minolta a number of times. So
Yeah.
That person mentioned it, and we got a resident Minolta user. So
Yes, we do.
I've loved the Facebook group. It started off slow. The trick I did when I first started it is you can add people to a group. So as an open group, I added like all my family members. So it looked like, wow, we got 30, 40 people in this group. No one's ever posting, but we got 30 or 40 people in it. And what I did is once we got to 50 people, every time a new person would add a real person, I would drop a family member. So we were stuck at 50 for quite a while. As new people would come, I'd drop a family member because they weren't posting. They were never going to, almost none of them, I think maybe 2, all the rest of them were not interested in posting anything in the photography group and probably wondered how the heck they got in it. So, but now it's grown. Has a life of its own. And I bet you, Tim, that if we were to poll the group and got enough people to respond, there would be a large percentage of them that don't even know that there's a podcast related to the group.
Say it again.
That I think there's a lot of people in the podcast group, the jpeg2RAW group on Facebook, that don't realize there is a podcast that the group is a part of. They just
You really think so?
Yes, I think that there's some people out there that have joined the group because it's a photography group, and don't realize that there is a podcast that this is a community of.
Oh my goodness!
And the reason I say that is because I've posted something about on last night's show, and people have said, "What show?" I said, "Well, the jpeg2RAW podcast." What podcast?
What's that?
So I think a lot of them do, but I think there's a good number of them who don't. And
Wow.
and that while that's a little odd, it also is shown that the group has kind of got its own life now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What would any moment stick out to you over the 5 years, or to any of you guys? We have that same challenge. So Ron says he has the same challenge.
Same
in
challenge
his,
with the
photo
Roller Photography Club.
Yep. It's as your community gets bigger, its niche expands.
Always does. And you're right. I mean, think about it. I mean, how many people listen to us on Stitcher Radio? You've always talked about that's one of the biggest ways people see us, listen to us. But we do a lot of stuff by video, and we're looking at pictures, or we don't look at pictures as much as we probably used to, I think. But we have a lot of photos that we put up there, and people listening on Stitcher Radio just don't see that.
Right.
Which really, it's odd. You would think that this is something we always thought was the drawing point, was I think the video of this.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not. Maybe it is the content, which is actually even better than the video then.
Some of the weird things that stand out to me, and this is really there's probably no one who listens or watches this show that this matters to other than me. And it's a weird thing. You'll never guess it, so I'm not going to ask you. But I do this show for several reasons. One is I love talking about photography. I love the guests that we get and listening and learning from them. And I love the fact that hopefully we're helping other people. But also I love the technical challenge of doing a show like this. I mean, you've seen the monitors I have here.
Right.
4 computers that are running the show right now. I love the technical challenge. So one of the technical challenges that took me a long time to overcome was when we showed a web page, anything with writing on it. If you go back and look, I don't know where the turning point was, but if you go back and look, when I showed a web page, it was blurry where you could not read the words very often. And I would go back and look at the raw footage, the edited footage, and at the best it was legible but still blurry. If you look at what we're doing today, it is some of the stuff that I record, you wouldn't be able to tell if I showed it to you on the screen whether that was the real web page or the recorded web page.
Right.
It is really, really clear now. I don't know about what I feed you back during the live show is, Tim, but the recorded version is really crisp. So that's an odd thing, I know, for a photography podcast for me to be happy about. But as far as the technical side, that's probably one of my favorite things that we've been able to do.
I don't know if I have anything that really stands out over the 5 years. I mean, there's a lot of little moments here and there, but I can't say there's anything that stands out that I would say, wow, that was amazing. And I guess really, if I'm going to think of something, it's probably the snowflakes from Don Com. If I had to really pick something, I mean, I wound up buying one of his posters last year because it just blows my mind. And you always think of when you were a kid talking about snowflakes, how every single one is different. Well, he proves it, and the photography, the method he uses, just blows my mind, and I love it. So I guess that's really one of the standout things that I'll always remember. That and probably the abandoned scapes.
Yeah.
Going back to those pictures,
AD
and because I think some of those places that AD took pictures of were places that I probably, or not probably, places that I knew but I'd never gone to, and that it's like you can really relate to it then, because like, wait, I was there, but I was not there.
Yeah. AD is somebody that I've grown to like even more as a person. We've kept in touch, and we do talk from time to time. So, making the friends that we've made over the years has been something that is a real special thing to me. Looking out in chat right now, Ron and Steven, who I've talked to outside of live shows, interacted with outside of that, and watching. Like, I remember Steven was in our Facebook group, and his photos were at a certain level, probably still better than mine, but his photos were at a certain level, and what he's shooting today is like worlds better than what he was shooting there. And while we really didn't have that much to do with it at all, we might have introduced him to Randy Henderson, who was the real estate photographer, and helped that. We got to watch Steven grow like that, and I love that part of it, to watch somebody grow. No matter what level you were or are, there's always room for improvement, and watching that improvement is just a wonderful thing. The other thing I've learned is, you ever saying that I never want to be in a club that would have me as a member?
No, I never heard that.
You never heard that saying?
No.
Well, hopefully somebody else said it. It's sort of like, that must not be a very good club if they would have me as a member. Well, I kind of had that thought. Anybody who would reach out to come onto our show must not be somebody I'd want to have on our show.
Okay.
That kind of thing. So I've had a little hesitancy as people have reached out and wanted to come on the show. What I've learned, I can't think of a single case where I regretted it. Every single person I've been like, wow, this actually worked out really good. I really like this person, and was glad to have them on the show.
Well, I know one of your biggest concerns always was, so tell me about the photo session you took. It went well.
That's still a big fear of mine. Is I come with a list of questions that hopefully will take longer than the hour, so I won't run out.
Right.
But I always fear the guest. And you weren't there that night. This was a big show. We had a guest, a lady that I worked on for a long time. I'm not going to name her name, but she's very, very popular, and we worked on it for a long time. We had her on a show. I think she was really nervous, so it's nothing against her. But she was like that. I had questions, and her answers were very short, maybe a one-sentence answer or something like that. And halfway through the show, I was running out of questions. Fortunately, the chat room, because she was so popular, had lots of questions I was able to work into the show. That helped out a lot. But yeah, I think that I've been surprised a number of times. Abe Robinson we had on the show, who is, he's like me, he's probably even bigger than me, a large guy with all kind of face piercings, and he does, dark glamour. And, shooting wise, he's probably a lot different from me. And I thought, what would we have in common? And it turned out I really enjoyed talking with him.
Yeah, I would say he was probably the one guest that I was probably worried, what might he say? And boy, it was a wonderful show. You can't judge, I guess, a book by its cover, I guess is the best way to put it.
No, you can't. And the other weird thing that this show has done for me is, look, in my day job, I can be a certain, I'm not going to say jerk, because I'm not a jerk, but I can be more aggressive. I'm dealing with vendors. I'm dealing with this kind of stuff.
Right.
It's one of those things where, dude, you want to do business with us, this is how it's going to be. Our bank, we have lots and lots of locations, and the bank we were dealing with, who I have no leverage over, but they didn't want to deal with us, so it's fine. I'll move 800 of our locations away from your bank and move them to another bank. There's a certain attitude there. Here, I'm not paying you. I'm not paying any of our guests. It is.
You mean the check's not in the mail?
No. It's an honor to have all you guys on. And so it's a whole different approach. It's a whole different thing. And so now at work, I find myself saying, what would Podcast Mike do? You don't always have to be the aggressive Mike. You can be, what would Podcast Mike do? So I think it's taught me a lot about people and myself.
Oh,
doing
and
the
that's
show.
what one of the things that an old boss told me: you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So how you treat people, and I've always been that way. I'm more on the nice side than the jerk side.
I'm not a jerk. I just here's how it's going to be. You know, I try and teach Jenny and Kristen. They're both work for me, and I've taught them over the years that you always deal from a position of power. Even if you don't have the power, you have the power to walk away.
Yes, you do.
And so I've walked into banking meetings when there was a half dozen other bankers there, and it's just Jenny and I walking in there, and she was like, "Oh boy, look how many of them there are." And I said, "I know. They should have brought more." So anyway, I have really enjoyed doing the show. Look forward to another 5 years. I don't know why we'd stop.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to. Well, I'll tell you one thing this show has taught me, really, really has taught me. Before I started the show, I considered myself advanced amateur photographer. Boy, I am amateur. I am definitely amateur. I mean, I may take good photographs. People, and probably one of the best things for me is I'm very critical. I never really like my photographs, but other people are like, oh my God, these are beautiful, these are wonderful. And then a lot of times I look at pictures that some of my friends may take or other acquaintances and like, or I see all the things that I would probably change about it. And I guess it's a good thing because I'm still developing. But after seeing some of the people we have on here, and I've been taking pictures, I think I got my first camera, probably Minolta SLR in 1991, probably when I got my first camera. And then you hear people that we've interviewed and like, oh yeah, I picked up a camera for the first time about 2 years ago. And you're already doing XYZ. And I like say to myself, oh my goodness. And they are so far ahead of what we do.
Yeah, I feel the same way, Tim, that I thought I was a decent photographer. And we meet all these people who, some of them have more experience, but a lot of them have a lot less. And,
yeah, a lot less.
And they're worlds beyond what I can do. And
right.
You're right. I have from this show learned a lot, but realized how little I know.
Yes.
And
that's where I am.
Yeah, that's very good. So anybody out in chat, Ronald, Stephen, if you're still there, Willie, Mark, any comments, any questions for Tim and I? This wasn't supposed to be a whole hour, so we're not going to probably go the whole hour. But things have held together.
Yes, it held together. But I don't have a USA soccer game to go watch tonight.
You don't?
No, sadly.
My wife was asleep on the couch before it even came down. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really stands out for me. It's, hitting show number 100 was a milestone. We had some of our old guests come back on. Some of the people we've lost track with. Seth White.
Yes, Seth disappeared.
Kathleen is not active very much anymore. Rachel has become a superstar, so we don't get to interact with her anymore. I knew she would be a superstar at some point, making the rounds and going everywhere. Who else we have on show number? We had Jenny come back on show number 100.
But she wasn't on video on it, was she? On 100 then?
She was, yeah.
Was she? I don't remember.
She came on video. Ron says, I always say 2 fundamental changes happen to us as photographers. The day we realize that we're the best photographer in the family. Yeah. Okay. That is true for me. And
for me too.
And the day we realize they don't know anything about photography.
And yes, that's definitely, I always look at people, and especially when you take pictures of kids, I'm like, bend down to the kid. Don't take the picture standing 6 feet high, straight down to the kid that's 2 feet tall. Bend down, get to their level. And I try to give tips constantly, and I guess they just don't want to hear it.
They don't want to learn. They're not interested in that.
No, they're not interested in learning.
And
Ron, the people that just don't take pictures. And I say, you're not going to have pictures of your family in the 20 years. And that's, my father, I got the bug of taking photographs from my father because my father was always the photograph man. So he was the one that always took a lot of pictures. And now I take a lot. Granted, I take a lot more now because of digital versus when I had a film. I think about it. I'm going on vacation next week and down to North Carolina. And I probably would have taken 10 rolls of either 24 or 36 exposure film. So I would have taken 200, 300 pictures maybe. Now I'll probably take like 2,000 pictures in the week because you know what?
Yeah.
Because you can delete it. Yeah, it's free.
And if you would have used all the film, because I know when I shot film, you get worried about running out. So
Yes.
as you started working your way through the film, you get a little more stingy.
Yes.
And then you end up with the last day or so, and you got all this film left, and it's like, all right, I'm not going to burn through all this film just to burn through it, because I got to pay to develop it all.
But now I'm not as critical about some of the pictures I take either.
Yep.
But some of those pictures have come out great also. So
yeah, but Ron is exactly right that you realize you're the best photographer in the family, but that's because no one else is a photographer in the family.
yes, this is true. There is nobody.
Any other questions? Willie says, Willie has a question. Tim, if they don't take on your tips, it makes you look way better.
This is true. Thank you, Willie.
Yeah. So yeah, if they never get better, you end up looking better.
And absolutely, it's weird. I when I post, it comes up as jpeg2RAW. I actually have to switch.
You're an admin of the group, and that's why. So
now I'll type true.
I was gonna say, if you look at what our, I don't think I have a way to show this. So you'd have to trust me here. If you go to jpeg2RAW channel, one of the groups I have is our most popular shows. So Tim, what would you say is our most popular show?
Our most popular show? Well,
as far as YouTube views.
Well, Damien Lovegrove.
Yep. So the Boudoir show. So that's probably an easy guess. So who was number one is the Damien Lovegrove with the Boudoir show.
And I think if I remember correctly, and unless something changed, our macro photography was number 2.
That's right, number 2,
which is such a polar opposite from
Boudoir.
From Boudoir.
And we have 2 Boudoir shows, so it's not like number 1, number 2 are Boudoir, and hey, let's do Boudoir all the time because it'll get us the most ratings. So number 2 was, you said you got it, the first macro show we did with Doncom. What do you think number 3 is?
I don't know offhand.
Okay. Number 3, and not going to go down all 177, so you don't have to worry about that.
As long as I'm not 177, one of my original shows.
There's just a few here that are, you got that contrast there, Boudoir, the macro. Right. And now we're going to go another contrast, and that number 3 is Doncom again, infrared photography.
Yes, and Ron McCarthy got it right before you said it.
Yep, he's right. So I wish Stephen was out there because number 4 is Randy Henderson, real estate photography. And
now that would be, somebody mentioned it yesterday. I think it was Stephen that mentioned it with doing drone photography now.
Yeah.
And we should probably do something with that once again because now it's legal for a lot of the commercial stuff. So real estate agents are probably doing that. So
yeah, drone photography is huge. Randy, I can't remember if Randy reached out to me or I reached out to him. I don't remember that order there, so I don't want to say he did it. But I like covering different topics on the show. I don't want to just do wedding photography week in and week out, or senior shots or whatever. So I like the variety. I just didn't think there was really going to be much there with the real estate. I really didn't expect much from that. That show has done gangbusters.
Yeah.
I think it helped out Steven. I think Randy has got a ton of people who have contacted him with questions about real estate photography. And after doing the show, I realized, when I'm dreaming about some places I'd love to retire someday. And you look at houses that have what probably was a real estate agent using a cell phone or whatever, and they look like crap. I don't even want to look at the house. They have lost me as a potential buyer because I don't even want to look at it because the photos are so crappy. It could be the most gorgeous house. Then you go to the next house where it looks like somebody like Steven Randy took the shot. The shots is gorgeous, and you can't, you want to go look at this house. And it could be just the opposite, that the great photos taken by Randy and Steven are of a horrible house, and the horrible photos are of a gorgeous house. But you just lost me with the horrible photos.
Absolutely.
Can't go look at that. So I really underestimated that, and that show has just done fantastic.
Well, I wonder, I don't think it'll tell you who did the views, but I wonder how many of that were like real estate agents trying to get ideas for what they should do as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It won't tell me that, but That may be. I don't know who's.
It wouldn't be surprised because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure if you search real estate, that's one of the things that'll come up, and they may be like, well, oh, this is a good idea, and start looking, and that's how we get a view on it. Then
Yeah, and I think a lot of photographers who are interested in that topic, and
Yes.
I know Nikki in our group also is a real estate photographer. She's does a great job with her stuff that she does there. So that was number 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 5 and 6, and then we'll stop that little thing. Number 5, a completely different topic, and that was Nicole Young on food photography.
okay, yes,
Yeah, and Nicole was somebody that I had years, maybe several years before we started doing the podcast, I had become a fan of because she was on stock photography, iStock photography, and I became a fan of her work there because I had just got on it, and she was someone that I thought, she's probably doing pretty well on here, and I really looked up to her and her work, and we finally got her on the show, number 73, to do a food photography show, and that show's done pretty well. And then number 6, I think that was 5. So number 6, and this will bring us roundabout back to the start, is a boudoir show with Susan Eckert. Eckert. How do you say
Eckert.
it? And I think her book, don't know. I think you can just barely see it right here, just the corner of it. May have to change that out. But she has a boudoir book. I tweeted about it and put it on our Facebook page when we got it. She sent me this book. It is thick and it is great quality. She sent us that book, sent me that book, signed copy of that book for saying thank you for being on the show. So that was our top 6 as far as views on YouTube goes.
that's cool.
Yeah. So you know what the lesson here is, Tim?
Take a varied approach to what we're going to have out there.
No, it's time for another boudoir show.
I didn't want to say that, but I knew you were going to.
You knew I was going to say that?
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, Willie says he might just be the best Irish photographer in chat right now. So I think Willie, you're probably the only one. Well, no, Mark's out there, but Mark's probably not Irish, I guess. So that's 5 years. If y'all, let's go ahead and wrap this up, and we'll head on for a few minutes of post show. But thank you guys for coming out for a Wednesday night as we recover from last night's, internet crash or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So until next week when we have Susan Speckman coming on, no, Lisa Speckman coming on next week. I'm getting Susan mixed up. Until next week when we have Lisa on, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Right.